Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So I don't like talking about this, and I know a lot of people don't like talking about this, but it's kind of something we all struggle with. And if you've been in business long enough, you have lost a client, you have lost a customer, and you have done so in a disappointing way. So, like, we've lost customers who we have decided to end the relationship with. Like, that was my first experience in what we call in the industry disengaging a customer and actually cutting them off of services. But last year, I had my first ever time where, like, we were broken up with instead of us doing the breakup. And I had time to reflect on that, and I realized I didn't really tell you the story about that, and I didn't really talk about it because, number 1, who wants to admit that someone broke up with them? Like, as a business owner, like, who wants to admit that they lost a client? But I think there's a ton of lessons in here, and I wanna share them with you because I cannot be the only one, right? I'm not the only one who's lost a client. So, we have to think about when a client decides to end their relationship. And I thought about this as a customer as well, because I've also ended relationships with businesses I've worked with. And when you think about it, you don't just kind of abruptly decide to go do that. You don't do it on a whim. You typically have a buildup of time where, okay, if this doesn't happen, I'm going to end it. If this doesn't happen, I'm going to end it. Like, you have all these little steps that happen in between. So it pains me to think about a client that, would have that happen to them about me. That hurts, but that's a little bit of ego talking and saying, okay, we're disappointed that that happened, but why did this happen? And when I unpacked it, I think the lesson really came into play when I had onboarded more difficult clients later. And I realized that I hadn't really implemented the lesson learned from that experience. I continued to make the same mistake over into the following year. And now I am looking back on this realizing that, oh, there was a lesson baked in there that I didn't really listen to. But now I did, and I'm going to share it with you. There's a few things in play that contributed to the loss of that initial client that then continued on into my future relationships. And one of them was that although it's great to have confidence, you have to know what you're not good at, and you got to be willing to admit it. Now, I take pride in the fact that everything is figure outable. I have an attitude where I can do anything because I can figure it out. I'm quick to figure this out, and I'm also quick to understand things. And how hard could it be? I do have a lot of confidence in that regard. In this case, it really damaged me because turns out I'm not good at this industry. I don't understand this industry. And although on a recent episode I was talking about, why I didn't choose an industry niche and why I think I'm decently good at most industries, there are certain industries that you really can't bullshit. If you don't know it like the back of your hand, like live and breathe it, you shouldn't be in it. So I realized that with this particular case, I was outside of my comfort zone and I was biting off more than I could chew. And with that, although I was committed and determined to serve this customer, I was doing them a disservice by trying to be what they needed, knowing that I was trying to help them and I was motivated to help them, but without the right skill set and experience positioned to serve them. So I didn't have that. And instead of admitting I don't have this and moving on, I tried to develop it, build the plane while we were flying it, essentially. And no client deserves that approach from somebody who's supposed to be an expert. So you have to be really careful and cautious about this. If you're serving a particular customer and you are thinking about, okay, well, I don't know right now all the things, and they're going to help me learn. Yes and no. To some extent, you need to come well equipped with enough background to be able to add value. You need to have done the thing they're trying to do for another company. especially if you're going to charge a premium. Now, in my case, what I should have done is probably worked with a bookkeeper who does this industry, worked with a tax person who does this industry, and asked their advice and saying, what are the nuances? What are the little like quirks about this industry I need to know? And then made a judgment call on, am I willing to learn those things, or am I able to quickly pick those things up? And am I willing to learn before really diving in? And I wish I had done that. And I think I probably wouldn't have taken this client on to begin with because I would have realized how much was involved. And it really matters. If you ask yourself these questions before you start a relationship with a customer, it really matters if you are honest with yourself and saying, am I in a position to serve this customer as an expert? If you are doing so. So if you are working in a client service type industry, this is key to really understand, am I able to serve them as an expert today? Whether that's you or your team. And in my case, we were not. We were far from it. And we took on the client knowing that we were committed to serve them, however, but we weren't competent in doing so. Confidence and competence. Sometimes they fight each other. Confidence can shield a lack of competence. And that's a little bit scary. So I don't know about you, but I saw the movie Wicked. I'm actually like obsessed with the movie. I think it's one of my favorite movies ever. And this is something that I see actually pop up. And this is kind of what reminded me of it is you have Glinda, who is insanely confident with no competence. She has all the confidence in the world and everyone loves her and she does great things, but she has no substance really through the majority of the movie. And then you have Elphaba and she has amazing confidence. She has the skill set, but she has no confidence. She doesn't showcase it. She doesn't showboat. She is quietly studying, trying to refine her craft, but she is not talking about what she does. There is a happy medium between these two. These two represent ends of a spectrum from like the competence and confidence side. Hey, Shannon here, and I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this podcast and enjoying this episode, please leave us a review on your podcast platform, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, any of them, and let us know if you're enjoying the show. One of your biggest takeaways, we would really, really appreciate it. Okay, back to the show. There is nothing wrong with being confident. However, when confidence is louder than competence, you have to be careful. You have to make sure you're separately understanding, am I confident because I am, or am I confident because I have the experience, expertise, and wherewithal and skills and tools to be able to do this effectively? Or do I just know that even if I don't, I'll get by anyway? And whether you choose to take an opportunity like this or you don't, the most important thing is you acknowledge where you're at and you say, I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm out of my comfort zone. There are a couple of things that you can do to ease this. I think looking back, I would have reconsidered this and said, okay, I'm going to be fully transparent. I don't have a ton of this experience. However, I'm going to discount your services by 50% because it's not fair for you to pay my tuition while I'm learning. And when you feel you can come to me as an expert and that I am fully the person that you believe you are hiring, if you believe I'm delivering that value, we can talk about increasing my fee. But I should have been completely and transparently honest with that person and saying that is the level I have. Or more realistically, I should have said, I'm going to look for someone else who can serve you. And I'm going to offer to work with them and sort of let them tutor me, if you will. I'm going to go help you find my replacement because this person really wanted to work with me personally and not just my company, but just said, I really want you in my corner. And I said, okay, but not for my skills. So we need to fill that gap. And I probably would have found another working arrangement, or I would have just straight up said, you know what, this isn't my skill set. Unfortunately, I think you need to go with somebody else. And this is also why I have the power sessions now and other things, because I realize that there are certain things I can't handle. And that's okay. I can admit that. So when I lost that client, it hurt. It really hurt. But it was also kind of a sigh of relief because I knew that we were not up to the par of standard of what we do. I knew that we were not satisfying this client in the way we did with others. And I knew that this was probably coming. But, did I feel bad? Sure. But it's more important that we acknowledge the truth of it and logically make that decision and say, you know what? This is the best decision for both parties. If I am not the best fit for this person, then there's somebody out there who is, and I'm preventing this person from finding that person. And you don't have to say yes to everybody. I was a season of yes for me. I was saying yes to everybody. And more importantly, you have to just know when to say no or under what conditions you will say yes, like a yes, but. So if you have a tough time saying no to people, the best thing you can do is turn it into a yes, but or a yes, if. And then that kind of reframes it for you into something more positive. The other thing that I wish I could have done differently and that we have really enhanced since then is the collaborative communication aspect of what we do, which is why it is now a core value, and making it clear that we are working on things. We were working super hard in doing all the research, the background, understanding this business and doing data, that it got in the way of us communicating well with the client because we were so heads down. We weren't ears up and we weren't listening to what was going on, and we weren't able to react quickly enough because we were so heads down and getting the work done. So that's another thing too, is just to remain focused on what the client's goals are and to listen. And if you are not in the position to help them with those goals, then you should be fully transparent that that's the case. So a little bit of a lesson learned from a client that had left us just over a year ago. And I'll tell you, I've made that mistake since to some extent. I have definitely taken on more work than the average person would probably say yes to, but we've gotten a lot more clear about who we say yes to and who we don't, and under what conditions. And we've also become much more collaborative as a team, where all of my employees and I discuss the status of every client and discuss if anybody is in a position where we are not able to serve them or where the core value is not being demonstrated. And we're able to be really clear about that and attack those things as they come in more proactively. I think with the things that we have in place now, that client would have been more successful with the team that we have now, with the conditions we have now, with the policies we have now. However, I still wouldn't take them because I would know that I was self-aware enough to say, it's okay. I don't have to say yes to everybody. It's not my area of expertise. We realize that CFO services may not necessarily be accessible to everybody. And that's why we have packaged our CFO services into a power session for you. With this single purchase session, you'll be able to navigate the financial scorecard with me personally on your business and figure out what constraint you need to unlock next. We're going to give you direction, clarity, and we're going to find ways to increase your profitability, increase your cash flow, and make sure you never run out of money. Okay, if you're interested in booking a power session with me, I only do a couple per month, so make sure you jump on quickly and sign up. Check the link in the show notes for more information. I can't wait to see you in a power session.